Yeah. So this is a little bit about how you can anchor codes while you are speaking with your client or when you are speaking with someone that you love or a friend. It is using NLP. I do have certification, and when I studied in the school, I studied psychology. I didn't complete the career, but I did a little bit more than half. We'll learn neurolinguistics. So light language or normal language will be elements of the codes in which beliefs and emotions are composed, right? So I did in the morning and yesterday a little bit diagrams for you to kind of understand the structure. When you know the structure of something, you can make your own combinations. Like, for example, have you ever been cooking something and you are missing one of the ingredients of the recipe? And then you said, it's okay. I think we can substitute this with blah, 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 right? So you can substitute and shift and have as many options as you can for you to be able to negotiate a shift in your client. And this may be more applied to coaching, but if you do a session, light language, Reiki, or just Reiki, or any technique that you use, when you complete that, you ask for feedback or how do you feel or something with your client, in that moment you can anchor. And also you can anchor when you are doing your healing session with your client. So let me just reframe a little bit what I'm talking about. So just picture this with me. Just see if you can recall in a moment of your life that while you were listening to someone or something, you change your perspective, you change your belief about something, right? And give me a second. So, for example, I was rewinding in my mind how I can explain this. Because persons that know how to use this, they will use it while they're talking to you, and you don't even need to go into a healing mood. You're shifting and shifting and shifting, and this can be used, of course, for the highest good and not for the highest good, right? In the manipulation side of psychology is called actually dark psychology, and people can use it in politics, people can use it on merchandise, people can use it for manipulation or for any purposes. But this is the tools, and how we apply them, it will be according to our own morals and principles. So I remember that in 2015, it was like an ending point in my life. I lost everything. I have share with you guys, and probably you guys have already heard that story. I'm not gonna go too big on it. So I was in the hospital. I had a surgery and I was feeling like in pieces all over. I lost everything. I had no money. I was in surgery. I was separated from my ex. I had 2 kids. I was all in pain. And I was feeling as if I was the worst person in the world. Like, I'm weak. Look what happened to me, right? I lost everything. I'm not worth it. I'm wrong, guilty. Well, you name it. And I remember that my mom was looking at me and she just changed her face like what I was saying, I wasn't true. And I said, like, it didn't make sense because I had proof, right? I had proof that I was wrong because I was in the hospital. I was living in my brother's house. I had zero money. My family was paying for all the doctor expenses. I had no job. I had my 2 kids. You name it, right? And then my mom says, "No, Gretel, actually, you are the strongest person I know." And I said, "No, mom, but look where I am, right?" And then when you're in that state, you begin to name all of the memories from this year and all of the lifetimes and childhood and when you were in the womb of your mom about the things that will support your distortion. And then she began to mention to me all of the times in my life that I have done something that I thought was incapable, but also that none of my brothers and sisters, neither my mom, were capable of. And I was like, I never thought about that perspective, right? And then she said, you leave the house when you were 17, you went to Venezuela when you were 19, you moved to US, you did this and that and that and that and that. And I was like, oh, that's true, right? And then I said, then I'm strong. and and I was like, oh, and for that moment and on, I purchased that belief of my mom, and I would define myself as a strong person. But before that moment, I anchor myself into I was weak. And I thought I was weak because I was comparing myself into a very strong person. That, of course, I was in disadvantage. So any situation will have different perceptions in which you can expand that consciousness and bring healing on it. But anchor, it is a circumstance that is attached time, action, or result with who or with what that change your life forever. When you are talking to a person, you need to look for those anchors. You have positive anchors and you have negative anchors. So I'm sharing. I kind of did it in this way so you guys can understand it because we're going to go in pieces. And when you do DNA activation, this is the basic of the mechanic for you to reprogram someone or even yourself. So it will be a person that is attaching a one with a need that is attached to, I cannot read, but a negative emotion. And the B and the E that I add behind represents a belief and an emotion. And this is anchored with time, action, result, someone or something. So when you do codes or when you do light language, this is actually what that means. It may not be meaning like, dear beings of light, I am Archangel Michael and I am here, right? It may not be like that. It may be data that perhaps we remember or we don't remember that is coherent that moment for us to have a shift. When you do that shift, you do it at all levels of your being, healing is instant. You don't need to go do Reiki or therapy or anything to just know you no longer resonate with that belief you had before. And if you guys have any questions, let me know so I can stop and rephrase it. I'm going to say it in different ways. So when you want to heal something, actually add a quote in some part that says that if a problem it is half identified, you will have a half solution. So this is, I don't remember from whom it is, but I thought actually it resonated a lot because sometimes people don't know how to tell you what they need because they are not aware yet or because they don't want to, because they feel guilt shame, they want to tell you, or whatever. And it's going to be your job as a healer to identify that. And in some occasions, you can push a little bit. In another occasions, you need to respect that maybe the person is not there yet. And for that, the more you practice, the better that you are going to get. So how you are going to identify the problem? You need to find data. You need to have resources. Data, it is probably questions. Who was it? Is that happened to you before? Is it the first time that happened? Is it a pattern that you always do? What has helped you before? What have you done? If it's someone that has something physical, do you have a diagnosis? Are you taking medicine, etc., etc.? How deep do you want to go in your healing? Maybe you want to set, do you want to do a just one-time session, or do you want to have a sort of like, I don't remember how that it's called in US, but like have a following healing, because maybe it's something like, for example, maybe someone was abused, and perhaps that is a very, very deep wound that may not be easy to go in just one Reiki session, right? When you gather your data, do it in a gentle way, because some persons ask as if they are the FBI, and you see if they like see through you, and in a kind of like a dominance vibe that feels, I'm not gonna say anything, right? So you have to go in, and then you step back, and then you in, and then you step back. It's very important that you observe what the person says, or what they are not saying to you, with every part of their being. I was talking to someone yesterday, and the person was describing um, a relationship that she could have had, but she didn't. They just got in the friend zone. And as I was observing, it wasn't coherent in her body with the storytelling she was saying. The first thing I noticed, it was that her hands were very nervous, because she was describing the beginning of the relationship, and she was saying like, oh my God, when I meet him, he was just like so into me, and and then we went out, and it was all super easy, but at the same time, and I was like, why is she nervous, right? And not like comfortable talking. So when someone is not comfortable, maybe it's a partial truth, maybe there are things that are hidden, or something that you have to uncover. It's sort of like searching for a treasure map, right? I'm going to go a little bit more into the questions and how you can find that, but it will depend on the time that you have. If you're going to do a coaching, maybe you can expand more. But if you're going to do a Reiki, then maybe you can do those questions while you are doing Reiki with a client, just like a little bit. As we have said before, like, I'm sensing, don't say like, oh my God, you have like two demons on your knees, because a person will freak out. But maybe you can say something like, there is a little bit of distortion on your knees, or I found some darkness on your knees, or something, right? In a gentle way. Why in a gentle way? Well, it will depend on your personality and on the personality of the person. But I remember that my mom says that when my grandfather died, my father was the one who received the news, right? By a phone call. We didn't have cell phones, so persons will just call into the phone of your house. That was the 70s. So she says that my father came into the house, and then she opened the door and he says, they told me not to tell you, but I don't know how to tell you this, so I'm just gonna say it. Your father died. And she said she just fainted. And she said, I hated him because she just dumped up on me this notice that it was so painful that I didn't have chance to prepare for it. Right. So she said, I would have wanted that he will do it in a slower way for me to say, okay, something is wrong. It's maybe about news, right? And then when she would receive the news, then she would just be more prepared for it. So the trial error, it's so important. Don't judge yourself if you have a bad session because it's part of the experience. Have notes in a journal if you can with each client. May not be for the client, but for yourself. Because the best learning that you can have is going to be through your experience and what you can gather. And at the same time, experience, the more you practice, the more master you are going to become. And at the end, try to always come with some solution. Sometimes people don't even want that, especially when it's just Reiki, because it's more like I'll just relax. They're gonna give me their life force. I don't have to do anything. If the person want to do it in that way, then don't insist, right? You will know when you can bring some closure, when the person is ready for it, and when they just want to have sort of like a break from the lifetime. So in this case, a person plus a circumstance, it will end in something that is fixable, that is changeable, that is shiftable, that you can upgrade. But a person plus a problem, that is fixed. It's something that in design thinking, they call it gravity problems, things you cannot change. And you are going to say, Gretel, but we manifest our own reality. Yes, but there are collective agreements that sort of bound our frequency to manifest whatever we want to. So a circumstance, it's more like I can change it for myself. But a problem, in this definition, is for like something is not on my hands to decide, but I can decide how I can approach that situation. For example, going back to me in the hospital, I couldn't change the fact that I was in pain. I couldn't change the fact that I was in the hospital, that I had no job yet, and I was in a huge uncertainty. But I could change my perception about it. And I remembered that what I did, I sort of give up. I just surrender in the most amazing way. I hope I always react like that, if I can be honest, because I said, I cannot be worse. This is the lowest of the lowest of the lowest I have ever been. So logically, I just can go up, right? And I just said, I had no resources. I had no plan. I was in the willingness of my family and the universe. So I said, well, so be it, right? Whatever it is, then just so be it. And that attitude of surrendering make things easier because I had so many problems that if something was in my hands to do, I would just say, okay, just whatever. It's just too much problems. I cannot add drama on it. I will just focus on the ones I can address. Yes. So I place myself into a solution oriented person, I guess, and that make things easier. So when you have a block, a problem, circumstance, whatever you want to call it, the easiest way it is to expand it, to go general, because when you go general, you will learn that in NLP, that I suggest that you may look for a book for NLP to read. I think it's neurolinguistics, neuroprogramming linguistics is very used in coaching. The majority of the persons that have a lot of followers on platforms from Mindvalley or Gaia or whatever, many of the techniques or the philosophy or the practices, they come from LNP. It's, I would say that it just grounds spirituality. It's a little bit more psychology or therapy, and some parts just a bit outdated, but it's workable and it will serve you a lot for yourself, but also for your clients, friends, family, etc., etc. Okay, in LMP, they say that we generalize problems. And for example, mm, you generalize, for example, when you generalize like Mexicans are like that, because I had a neighborhood Mexican, so all Mexico is like that, all Chinese, all Americans, all white people, or millennials, or whatever. So because I had one experience with someone or something, I assume everything else will taste the same. Like, for example, maybe you can bite a jalapeno and you said, oh my God, they're all spicy. But they are not all spicy. They are some peppers that are not spicy because for some reason, maybe they weren't watered, or maybe the minerals on earth or whatever. So some of them are not going to be spicy. They're going to have a type of pepper-like taste, but not spicy at all. So just kind of like a joke from the universe. Sometimes when people like, I'm seeing jalapenos, but I want to say peppers, want them to be spicy, they are not, right? And when do you want that they are not, they could be spicy. So because maybe you like a chocolate cake, you may not like all chocolate cakes because it will depend on the details. If you follow Abraham Hicks, she always guided people to go general, because when you go general, you entangle yourself and you're able to find a change, a shift, a mindset, because you go out of the box. And this is how you can find solutions, because what you are doing are definitely working, or me when I have a problem or a circumstance. But if I do something new, maybe that doesn't work either. But the more you try, the more chances you have on finding the solution. So just to recapitulate, a problem in design thinking is defined as a fix because it belongs to a collective. But a circumstance is changeable because it belongs to the self. So the first thing on design thinking, that it is a methodology that you guys can read. Also, I read a book that it was for free in Audible, And you also have seminars on YouTube from the University of Stanford. That is actually a process designed to find solutions. It's very simple and it's very practical. I like it a lot. They say that when we call problem to anything, we're just not using the word rightfully. Because a problem would be, for example, me wanting to change gravity, or I want to take away the meridian of Earth where I live, things that are not actually on my hands to do. But when you change one word for another word that has a heavier connotation, that can also help. And this is something that can happen between languages. There are some things that you would said in English that in Spanish is like, no, please, or likewise. This is why I love light language, because in light language, you avoid all of those things and it just all find harmony by itself. So let's go again. Why do you need to decode a circumstance to have a shift, a wound? You have to identify first the interest of your person. What is the intention? What is the need? What the person wants? And I'm going to put the example of the person that I was talking yesterday. She was describing the relationship and she began talking very nervous and like insecure, right? Almost as if her voice was going to break in tears. But she was smiling and she was saying that she was the man of her life. All that she wanted into a twin flame, he got it. And I was like, right? And it was one of my friends, and there were other three friends, and she was laughing, and it was like, right? And I was just like, right? That's weird. and then, and then she said something like this, and maybe you guys need to see me a little bit. Let me see if I can do that. She said, I am so open for dating, and he was so close, but I was so ready, and he was so just not open to have that we just stopped talking to each other. And for me, because I noticed her body language, if you said yes, right, it's just like or if someone says, do you want to say something, like yes, you say like or for example, when you ask someone, are you upset? No, should I be upset? Right? Doesn't make sense. If someone says, I'm very open, but he was close, but I was ready, but he was not, he's speaking not being conscious that what she perceived was not the truth, because her energy, her core, her body is saying that she wasn't open, that she was in fact close. So whatever he did, she was looking for reasons to justify herself. Yes. And she did it twice. Probably because I was looking, it was just like, if you're not sure, she did it like twice. And then I had to stop her and I said, hold on. Because we did the certification for NLP together. We all know body language. We all know the techniques. So I said, hold on, wait, did you notice what you said? And she said, no, why? And then when I pointed to her, she was like, oh, but what does that mean, right? When you are speaking from your wound or your distortion, you cannot see the solution. Sometimes not even that people tell it to you. It's just like for you, it doesn't make sense. Like if someone speaks to me in German, I like, I know, have no idea, right? If I cannot translate it, I have no idea. Or maybe algebra, right? Something in physics that I have no idea how to solve. That will be like something that I will just invalidate it. When I am hooked in a pattern, the universe will give me reasons to prove my hook. That's why when someone channels and channels to confirm what the channel believe, it may not come from the guide. It came from the subconscious. It came from the person wanting to prove something, right? So when a channel it is too strong in belief or moral, may not be that neutral. In fact, it's hard to have a pure channeling honestly from a higher being because you have to develop a huge capacity to place yourself aside. And for me, not yet. Probably I will get deeper and deeper and deeper. But I found that when I'm able to take completely Gretel aside, then I cannot ground it into her. I don't know if that makes sense. Then she doesn't understand it. Whether it doesn't come into words, it's just like language, and she doesn't understand it either. She has it, but she doesn't has the capacity to explain it. So when it passed through her, it passed through her own beliefs and resources. This is why it's important for you guys to read, because you will develop your capacity to channel the information for yourself. And maybe the information is not new. Maybe we're just rewriting all that it is. It doesn't matter, but it will come not because you read it once, but because you read in many different resources and you integrate it, you made it yours, and then you can transmit it. Yes. So observe your client a little bit, but go through more than what the person is saying to see the archetype that they have, how they speak, what they're not saying, if they're lying to you, or anything that can be a source of data for you to know how to shift it. And let me know if you guys have any questions. So, how we anchor, I believe, and what anchors. I'm gonna take a picture and send these to you guys so you guys have it. But an anchor, I think. It's a marker for something. It could be positive or it could be negative. For example, we have anchor of time, we have anchor of race, we have anchor of identity, we have anchor of religion, belief systems, political party that you have, been places that you have been, things that you like or dislike, or maybe it could be phobias, traumas, experiences, right? Everything could be an anchor, but an anchor is something that changed you forever. Like, for example, if you got married, if you purchase a house, if you have a baby, when you had relationships the first time, when you were kids for the first time maybe you went to the ocean or moved out of your family, things that happen, it could be things that happen for you for first time that are very important, that just bring something that shift, positive or negative. And that depends on, in NLP, they say that, and maybe you have heard this before, the map is not a destination, but they have definitions, right? This is one of the ones that I adopted for myself. The map is not of the destination. Like, for example, for me, I was born in Mexico because my mom traveled, so I was born here. She came pregnant, but I don't feel Mexican. I don't feel from any country at all. If I am in Japan, I will love Japan and will feel Japanese. When I was in Venezuela, I felt that I was Venezuelan. When I am in here, but I'm a Mexican and I don't like spicy. I don't like a lot of things that Mexican likes normally, and I don't have this Mexico. Like, I remember a friend were saying, if Venezuela and Mexico have a football soccer game, who you are going to place your like my energy? And I was saying like whatever, like whoever I think can win. Like I don't have that patriotism, but normally persons will have it. And in a way, I identify as a Mexican because it's the way society works. You have to say who are you, where I'm coming from, etc., etc. Who's your family, what you have done, blah blah blah. But that blah 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 is just the archives of what we have done in this lifetime, right? So once we'll create markers and anchors. Now this is very interesting, and I want you guys to take your notes or just integrate it. An anchor will have different ingredients all together: belief, emotion, physical senses, physical experience, a circumstance, something, right? Circumstance, it could be a time, a place, an action that it is associated as all together with that person. So you don't need to have all of them to reactivate that anchor. What happens in the body when you have an anchor? Normally, to anchor a code, you need to have scientific vary. Some says 21 days. In neurolinguistics, they say 28 days. I was listening to Carolyn Leff. She's a neuroscientist, PhD or something, and she was saying that 60 days to anchor a new pathway that materialize from the energy that we emanate by doing something that becomes a habit daily, right? She said that in 30 days, our body built that new pathway biologically, right? But in another 30 days, the body finds a stability. I hope that makes sense. So, if I have been smoking 5 years and one day I stop doing it, most likely I haven't anchored the belief that I don't smoke because I have more days doing it than against it. But it doesn't mean I cannot change. I can. I just had to do more times, more than 5 years, so I can say I'm not going to smoke ever. Yes, I hope that makes sense. The scientific Robert Pulaski, he just wrote a book that's called Determine. I am looking for order the next month. I haven't read it, but I heard an interview. He's a biologist, and he said that, how do I say it? Free will doesn't exist because from the pinpoint of biology in your cells react to what it is around. So I haven't listened to the book, but I heard him before. So he said that if I am super rainbow and unicorn and I am all balanced, I am peaceful, I'm relaxed, but I just listened the new of September 11. I don't know if you guys remember. That is an encore. I remember that this grief just poured through me and all the ones that were around for days. And I was not even in US. And I knew no one that will live in New York by that time. But it doesn't matter. You associate yourself with that, saying that it could have happened to me or someone I know. So you empathize, right? In that moment, even though I was just watching the news, I would felt something that will teach me how that must have felt alike. Yes, it happened when you watch a movie that makes you cry, and you know it's not real. Sometimes it's even cartoon, but you still want to cry because you feel as if momentarily it's real. But for our body, it's real. Yes, this is why there are sexual fantasies and scary movies, because even though you know it's an illusion, you live it anyway. But the body do not distinguish what is an illusion and what it isn't. For the body, everything is real. But if there are testosterone because people is in fear, my body will react in survival mode, trying to protect, even though I wasn't fine a minute ago, right? So that scientific says we think we can choose our thinking, but in reality, we are reacting with predeterminism with what it is around. Now, there are multiple formulas of thinking in which we could do that. And this is something that happens in the entanglement theory. They had a particle that they throw like that, let's say. I think I'm going to draw it so I can show you to you, right? They put like a wall, right? And the wall had, you guys could look for in YouTube for the experiments. They will explain better than me. So they put the particle right here. And this is what they do on the boson Higgs in Switzerland and France. So they wanted to see, sorry. Oh my God, I dropped it. They wanted to see what are the laws of the quantum world, right? So what happens when the particle enters here and let's say the particle divide, right? Let's say it happened in this way. And then what will happen in that part? Well, maybe it happened like that. Yes. But when they were looking, the particle always did what they expected, because they were theorizing about how the light will flutter. I think is a great word. But guess what? When they decide to let particles exploring and they leave, particles go random. But every time they were looking, they behave as they predict they were looking. And this is science, right? So what's going on? So they begin to trick and said, okay, we're going to predict in this part, and then we go. And when they went aside, particles went random. And then they say, okay, maybe let's let them random and we just enter. And at that second, they enter with a camera or a scientific or something that says someone was looking in some way, the particles behave. How does the particles know when someone is looking and when someone it isn't. They can explain, but the theory it is that we're all in fields that are entangled, that sort of share the same information on different levels. This is what we call states of consciousness. So the experience goes like in a napkin, folding in different ways, and we're just seeing from one time, but it's rippling into all of the layers of the quantum field, having different reactions. But the quantum particle somehow knows all of the fragments of the potentials of the possibility for that outcome to be, that it's able to predict what will happen as if the particles read in the future. This is what you and I do when we're accurate in our own predictions. So this is what science says. This is what science says. We don't have free will because we're not choosing because we have free will. We're choosing because the system kind of manipulate you to do that, right? I think in a way, everything have a little bit of truth and everything will have something false because we're just looking for a portion of it. So in reality, we don't know. So you do it in a way that works for you. We don't have to understand everything, but try to understand at least that somehow quantumly, whatever you do, it must be rippling good because otherwise it cannot be. The source should be so smart with all of those different systems that interact together that I don't think it would do a random mistake just because, oh my God, I was in break, but I'm God. But now we have volcanoes, right? It doesn't make sense. Even volcanoes must have a reason to be. So going back, person, time, memory, situation, belief, emotion, wound, and the wound could be collectively spread, physical spread, emotional spread, mental spread, energetic spread. Now there are studies that prove with the statistics that if we watch a video on TikTok or on Instagram or whatever many times, you don't even need to know if it's real. Your consciousness assume it is because a lot of people is talking about it. Yes. And this is because it become part of our own algorithm, because you have a sense of familiarity with it. You would say, that never happened to me. But what happens with persons that work with trash? And I'm talking about persons that go in the car and pick up your trash, the one that you have in your house, and then drop it into a big place full of trash. I couldn't do like that because it smells nasty. But they go as if nothing happened because they adapt themselves not to be triggered by the smell so they could have that type of job. Or the ones that work plumbing restrooms, or the ones that work with dead persons in funeral houses, for example, right? Or doing autopsies, or you name it, in chemistry or something. So we are so perfect that we will adapt into whatever it is and then create a new pattern. And that will happen with time. So a wound that collectively spread, it will be like, for example, September 11th. It will need to happen in the US, but everyone in the world live it too in a different way. And that happened with collective things like now Israel and Palestine, or Crimea, or World War I or two. It's just the Y scenarios for me. Things that we all acknowledge, so we made a collective threat about it, whether in favor or against. Like on it will depend on our beliefs. We also have physical wounds, we have emotional wounds, we have mental wounds, but I think it all begins in the energy, because the energy sort of manifests or evolve or emanate a thought form. It could be something that is completely unknown to you. I don't know if you have been in a place that is something completely new for you. You have no judgment about it. You don't know if you will like it or not. And then when you experience, then you choose, I didn't, or it's good, or whatever. I remember first time I ate Pakistani food, I didn't like it. I couldn't eat. I was just like, no, I wanted to spit it out. But I remember that I ate Lebanese food because I work with Lebanese. I think I worked with Lebanese for a year and a half or two. But before I quit, I was understanding Arabic and I was adoring their food. When at the beginning, I didn't like it, but I got used to. And because you get used to, you're kind of like, it's not bad. Maybe with a little bit of lime or pepper on it, or ketchup or ranch or whatever, right? I can just adapt it into what I like and just make it my own. So we got used to even wounds, distortions, things that shouldn't happen. This is why we have pedophiles and people in jails and things, because you believe to think, well, everybody does it, or is a norm, or not, no one has doing anything, so it must be a normal thing, or being a slave, or maybe the narc groups in Mexico, for example. When I was a child, it's normal to talk about killings, and you will see people with guns and rifles, and you would just say, "Oh, good afternoon, right, Mr. Lopez," or whatever, and just say like, "I didn't see the gun, I didn't see anything, I didn't see a coke, nothing. I'll just go to my school." Because everyone would do that, and it's not the same city that I live anymore. And now that I go back in my mind, I say, girl, how is that possible? Because I had 6 or 7. It was what it was when I was a child. I had no capacity to discern, but I have that now. So something energetic will be in harmony or in disharmony. And depending on which, it will evolve a mental pattern, an emotional pattern, a physical pattern, and then you spread it. Because we like to tell everyone, do you know what is happening in Mexico? Do you know what is happening in Ukraine? Do you know what this president is doing? Do you know, did you read in the news that the economy is going to crash? Right? And then I will post it on Facebook, and then everyone, tell all of my family, maybe for days. And maybe it's something in mine. There are persons that tell their problems like all the time, and every time they see them, and for years. I don't know if you have or know any person like that. It is the same stories all the time. And you notice that with all persons. All persons, like in her 70s or something, with their mind, maybe their mind is perfect, but maybe they don't have a lot of emotional things or exciting things or meaningful things in which to talk about, that they will talk about whatever was meaningful. And that'll be always in the old times, right? So let me show you the way that it'll co-create to maybe Encore. Oh. Sorry. Okay, like that. Do you guys have any problem or any question with it? Or is it understandable? So, when we have pain or a disease, it's not because it just started. It wasn't full of COVID. It wasn't because a person had flu and kissed me anyway. It was because I already had it in COVID, or the person who had the flu that was coughing in my work or whatever. It just activate what I already had. Thank you. So when I got COVID, for example, I remember that I was in yoga and I had a person next to me and she was complaining that she just had the COVID vaccine and she was like very low in her energy. And then we're doing one of the asanas. And then at that moment, I saw kind of like a dark smoke that it was spreading from her, kind of like gas. And then it entered my body. And then at the same time, I was seeing kind of like soldiers in the cells and things because we create, they're like metaphors that you interpret when you see. It's like a surreal thing that comes and goes. And I was like, what was that, right? What was that? And then I finished, and then it was Thanksgiving. I went to Thanksgiving with my sister, my mom, all of my brothers and sisters, blah, blah, blah. And then my mom began to have fever. I was gonna say fiber, and I said this is not the right pronunciation. Fever, and then we're kind of like low. But then the next day, I was like, Chad, I couldn't breathe. I was just like in emergency, right? But it's not that it was the fault of the person who had COVID. Maybe I didn't have it because my mom traveled in bus and she was refusing to use the mask. So maybe my mom had it and I had it. I had no idea. The result was we all got COVID. We all got COVID, but only two manifest symptoms. And I was the worst. And one of the families in my brother, none of them had COVID and none of them got vaccine because they did a detox for 21 days, like 5 times into the 2 years of COVID quarantine. They did it. But we all have it, but the majority had it without symptoms or like very low. But I had the worst symptoms because my kids were going to pass Christmas with a father. And I think it was my way to purge a part of me that didn't understood why it was all right for them to have that experience. And a part of us, of course, in the shadow, will just rebel and says, we don't like that. We're gonna be alone. And even though you justify, because it was my idea, I wanted for them to have that. There are things that sometimes you cannot control because you add all of the elements for that trigger to be activated. And then anything can be like an airplane came or COVID or whatever, but that will be just an ingredient that contribute for that to be active. So why is it important to learn about Encores? Because, and I want you to recall in your mind, have you ever had a sensation? Sensations activate Encores like that. You just need one or two ingredients from all of the ones that I mentioned to ingredients that is the same person or the same situation or the same sensation you experience, or the same time, or something that you have associated with. Like, for example, all Mexicans are lazy, or all Mexicans are hard worker, or whatever belief we create about something that we generalize, right? And those can be passed for generations because they are seated in our biology. For example, every time I remember cinnamon cookies, I remember my grandma, because we had coffee with carnation milk with a lot of cinnamon and vanilla and chocolate chips and cinnamon cookies. And for me, that was a happy memory. So every time I have cinnamon, that memory is just like, oh. And then I love whatever has cinnamon. Cookies, oil, or fibris, or whatever is just a happy encore for me. Yes. Or roses make me happy. Chocolate made me happy. Traveling made me happy because I travel a lot. I love it. Every time I go into a plane, I'm like, I'm going because there are things that make me happy. But we also have things that pull us down. It could be a song, it could be a smell, it could be a word, it could be something that reminds you another something, right? Ask yourself, for example, and this is why people has PTSD. You can reframe it, but it's rarely going to go away. You have to really work things out to get rid of it. But normally, it's hard for people to get hooked, but everything is possible. For example, for me, a negative anchor. I remember that my ex always like mariachi. So we always like to purchase like an hour mariachi, and it will always be, because he was like a very social person, will always be in restaurants, vacations, going out with a lot of people, but he will always drink. And because I'm not a drink, I have never liked alcohol. I have got it just socially, just because I don't know what wasted, but it's not like my thing. I don't need it. I don't need to. I can say stupid things with the alcohol and make laugh and jokes. I don't need it. But then for me, it anchors something like, oh, I'm the only people same here, right? So normally when there is mariachi, people will say like, "Hi, Mexican, let's drink mariachi." I'm like, not like mariachi, right? It's not like my thing. And it's not like my thing because it brings back bad experiences. It's anchored to. Or certain songs. I remember that, I don't know, one day we fight and we're boyfriends. And then he wanted to get back with me, and I was so pissed off. I was just like on fire. So in Spanish we call that serenata. I don't know how that will be said in English. But serenata, they bring mariachi to you like for an hour, and it's supposed to be something for you to be grateful and say, okay, I forgive you, right? But I was so pissed off that I care about the serenata, and it was in my work, and he got flowers and everything, and everyone was saying like, "Oh my God, girl, just forgive." And I was like, no, I was just like a dragon, right? So he put the same song like over and over, like waiting for me to say yes. And every time I was hearing that song, I even hated the singer. I was just like, oh, take that. I want to throw up. Because it reminded me to that memory where I was upset. That is not a pleasant one. So how you heal those things? I even got hit because I remember that, oh, the upset. So persons can bring that activation to us. And this is what we call trigger. There are persons just by seeing them, you have no idea, but your stomach just strange. You have no idea. It could be the energy that is similar to someone, or it could be something that that person did to you, or that reminds you someone else, right? We're associating with something that we dislike, that is a wound. But in reality, when someone trigger a wound in us, it's because subconsciously we have that urgently to get rid of it. So it's the common ones is that someone will comment something mean on you, or will say something. Well, I don't know, in men, maybe this is are just female examples. Like, oh, that color in you doesn't look good, or something that you would say like, oh, I just purchased it, or I don't know, I brought it from Italy or something. So maybe every time you use your thing because someone says, oh, it doesn't look good on you, maybe you associate it with I don't feel good or something. It's just the perception. The perception will have physical chemistry that it emanates because of that thought form will transform itself into emotion when it runs through, and emotions run your limbic system, your hormones, your glands. So it's scientifically proven that if you open your hands for 2 minutes, you will increase your testosterone. And if you do that before you are going to an interview, or you're going to do something that you feel insecure, you're going to look more confident. If you stand up like Superman, like in a superhero, like I'm about to fly and the world is mine, I'm super powerful, no one can do anything on me, and maybe do affirmations or light language or something that make you feel good, the chemistry of your body will support it. This is why when you meditate, even though maybe you never leave your bed, you say, I went to Pleiades. I was here, Kanye Michael and I, we just did high five and we had dinner together and Victoria's calm, and you feel real because it's real in your body. Yes. This is why it has been research about it and scientific, especially in psychology. They say that their collective traumas people purchase and feel as if happened to them. And maybe for us, I just have noise, like someone is listening, so I just tune in. For example, maybe if it's a kid, 3, 4, 5, 2, 1, and maybe someone is watching a movie where someone was raped, but the kid's baby doesn't know, they could perceive as if it happens to them. And this is something that things that has happened. Persons that think they were abused or someone touched me, and apparently no one did, but somehow it feels like because someone see that belief in them. There was a study that it was run in UK in, I don't know if it was the last election or the previous one, that they were testing calling in the phone of the persons, and there were the investigation, it was about how we can manipulate others, if it's that too easy or it's not that easy on politics. I think it happened when, do you guys remember when the Facebook CEO Zuckerberg was in court because he sort of manipulating information, political, blah, 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 blah. Well, they prove that they were calling to the houses and they were saying they were seeding the belief in this form. Let's say that it was between John and Kennedy, right? So John, it was the bad person, Kennedy, it was the good. And maybe these persons that are calling are for the Kennedy's political party. So they call everyone and says, we're talking because can you please do, I don't know how to say, in Spanish is encuesta, but it's like a series of questions and you get an Amazon certificate for $20 if you answer this to us. Yes, yes, I want my $20 certificate. And then we just released a video where John it's doing certain pedophile activities, and they release it in the media because it has proof that 200 persons were touched with this person, blah, 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 but it was so fake. And because of that, we are doing our research to see who do you think is best and who do you think you would like to vote. Do you like to vote for John or for Kennedy? Oh, for Kennedy for sure. So in all of the times or the majority that they begin by talking bad about the person, the answer confirmed that that person was a bad person because of the information that they received in that moment that they didn't know it was true or not, but maybe they have sent a video saying that it could be possible someone says that this and this and this and this happened. We assume that maybe it is because I saw it so many times a day on my feed, right? And then in another part, in the other half of the statistics, they were asking, we're asking you, we're completely in the middle. This is no hold to any party. We just like to know which of the candidates you like to vote, John or Kennedy, because this and this and this. And it was more neutral, right? So this is called bias. Bias in psychology, it is predetermined beliefs that are going to make us believe more in that. For example, if it's someone religious and this is what they're targeting and this is what they use on the news, because this is part of the tactics that it is used on marketing and ads for years since I was in university, I know that. Let's say that they want to sell something for persons that are Christian. And maybe this is something that is aligned to a school, for a certain church, for certain people. So they will identify the target. So maybe they will run some ads or a campaign or anything, making noise, knowing the weaknesses or the possible niche of church person. So maybe it could be something against demons or I don't know, right? So bias, it is that I'm predetermined to think in that way. So anything that I find will confirm that my belief is true. And it's something that is very used in our psychology. So use that in a positive way. And knowing that with these resources, you can destroy someone or you can put it together. So use it from your heart, because there are already persons that do it in a negative form. So what will be the formula? And maybe I can say it very quickly, and then I'll do another video explaining this so you guys understand it. You have to look for, let's put an example. And let me put it my notes so you take a screenshot. And I'm gonna send this to you guys. The same example that happens with my mom and I, right? Person, Grethel, emotion negative, weak. When? All the time, because we generalize. can see the paper again. Yes, I can send you guys to your messenger, and I will rewrite this and send in a form. And send it to Gina. Hold on. Well, I explained. So in my case, what my mom did is change the ingredients on my story, right? And then she looked for facts. And we do those things all the time. We all do those things. It just persons that know will use it on their advantage, right? So a person plus something negative, when you feel in that way. In this case, if my mom would have been my coach and would say, okay, Gretel, when do you feel weak? Like all the time? And maybe I will say, no, I feel weak when I lose the house, when I don't have job, when I'm in the hospital, right? In this case, my mom should have said, and when do you feel strong? And maybe I would have said, I feel strong. But in that time, I always have been a funny person. And I'm always silly doing jokes. And when I am with people, I was kind of like the clown. So I'm making jokes, I'm laughing, and I'm always, because I like that no one fights. I like peace. So I'm always adding the ingredient that is needed so we have a good gathering, right? So probably I acknowledge that part of me. So probably I would say, oh, I'm a social person. I'm good at dancing. I feel strong in those things. And what other things do you feel strong? I am good at drawing, right? And then my mom have said, so you don't always feel weak, like you said before. So we understand that that belief isn't actually true. It's a lie, it's false. And then the more facts you look, and then you can say those things, but it's more truth when the person make its own cognitive association and begin to describing or thinking moments in which they are not. Maybe the negative emotion it is I'm insecure, I'm ugly, or I'm stupid, or I'm poor, right? So you need to know first what is the opposite emotion to the negative, right? If it's insecure, confident, ugly, beautiful. In which area do you feel beautiful or comfortable, right? Or or you need to know, this is another question that it's good to know. What do you define as weak? Because you need to have the definition of the person about the weakness, because you can redefine that. This is why it's important for us to have knowledge, right? Knowledge that you read a little bit, so you have more resources to do good your job. And you could do this with your family, with yourself. Like, for example, I think 3 months ago, I said, okay, and this is a question that it is used on access bars. That is good that you guys take a note, because I love it. The question is, what do I need to become that, right? What do I need to become strong? What do I need to become confident? What do I need to become beautiful? What do I need to become rich or married, or whatever you want, or a light worker or Reiki master, whatever you want, what do I need, right? And then something will come through. And then you ask, and what can I do now? Because maybe you don't feel beautiful. Maybe you said, oh my God, I have white hair and I have belly and I have wrinkles and blah, 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 right? But when I have a new dress or I go to the salon, I feel beautiful, right? Or I feel beautiful next to this person or whatever. So you have to reframe in which scenario ugly is ugly and beautiful is beautiful. For example, I was listening to an interview of Elon Musk, right? And then I know he's gonna hate it and kind of love it. But when I listened to him, I realized that his intelligence is above the norm. At least in the podcast that I listened yesterday, I was listening, and it makes sense why he is what he is. And I don't like everything of him, but it's understandable, right? It's coherence. They were asking, what do you think is the solution to solve the conflict between Israel and Palestine? And he said, conspicuous act of kindness. And then the locutor says, can you explain that further? And then he said something like, for every person the Israel government kills, they need to, because he said, so he will just give food or medical services to the Palestine, they're gonna think, no, you're not true. That's not kindness. You want to manipulate us because you are killing me in this side. You cannot heal me in this side. It doesn't make sense, right? And he said, it's not like that, right? And then I was thinking about when Jesus says, put in the other cheek. It's not that you are going to place yourself to be a doormat, right? It's that you just need to set boundaries, but at the same time, know what you are so you don't engage with what you aren't. But with the conspicuous acts of kindness, he says that everything needs to be redeemed because all that you put out there will have an effect that it will impact you, right? And I don't think he's a spiritual person, but in a way, it's all the same. So he says, for every person that is killed, they need to do something, a program or a resource or whatever that make it up for the ones that stay in whatever side. And for me, it just clicked something inside. And I said like, oh my God, that's so true. So the solution may not be in the problem because in this case it's a war, right? They are both right and they are both wrong because there are things shouldn't happen, I'm sure, on both sides. So it would be hard to find a solution, but there is solutions outside of the problem. And that can happen in the actions that we all do. But we can only do that when we expand our perceptions and begin to thinking outside of the box. Google design thinking and look for a book of NLP. That is going to help you a lot. Whatever you want, that there are free audiobooks on YouTube that you guys could Google, or you guys could purchase one. If you purchase book, give yourself the permission to make notes in a journal that you have. I have a lot of notes. I have notes everywhere. Or just highlight in the book because that will help you to mind needs facts. The feeling don't care, doesn't need logic or common sense or anything, but the mind needs proof. So you can give proof to your mind into the things that are working out for you. Oh my God, it's 13:33. So you shift. There is a formula on NLP that if you guys, you can take a note. I'm giving you all of my secrets. Now, I normally forgot to use these techniques. I know them, but I barely use them. I have used them with my daughter and at work. I mean, when I remember, I apply them more like in a personal thing. But it's good that you have them, and I know persons that they use it in therapy. You ask the person 3 questions that you know they know are truth. So the fourth question will be a yes. That's like 99%. So in that fourth question, you add the belief. Yes, for example. And with this, I'm going to close. You have to link the person with the new emotion, with the action they already know. Going back to my example, maybe my mom, as a coach, she would say, I understand, Gretel, that you feel weak because you are in the hospital, right? Yes. Right? I'm in pain. Yes. I know that you have been going through a lot, and it's logical to think that you're weak. Of course. I will, of course, say yes, because I'm telling her I think I'm weak. And then she could say another thing that she knows, I'm going to say yes. Making an opening for the encore. But you also know that you are not weak all the times, and that you have other circumstances in which you have been strong. Yes, because she's going general, right? She's not putting the finger on the wound. She's just going general. I will say yes. So then she encore. For example, you can agree with me that when you leave the house at 17, you were a strong person, because I never leave my town. When you choose to decide alone in Venezuela, when all of your brothers came and you were 19, you were a strong person. When you choose to do to all of the protests in Venezuela that they were killing persons, you were a strong person because you know you could die and you did it anyway. And blah, 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 blah. So she began to say all of the facts in which I was strong, that I couldn't negate that I was a strong person, that I said, yes, I'm a strong person. And for that moment in time, I would say, I'm a strong person, or I'm a survivor, or I'm resilient, or anything. It's just that you don't negate the parts in which you feel weak, but you also recognize that from that weakness and vulnerability, a courageous part of you says, we will make it, or we'll transform it, or we'll go up, or we'll have faith, or be positive, no matter how, whatever things happen to me, because you don't engage in the victim, because you are not part of the problem yourself. You're a part of the solution. Yes. And with this, I want you guys to do your work. It's good that you look for a book about body linguistics, because it will shape your empathy and intuition into a higher level. There are many books on YouTube you don't even have to purchase, but it's good if you purchase one and practice. It's also good that you look for a seminar or something. There is a lot on YouTube also. You don't have to pay for this, about empathy, about how to empathize and how to do rightful empathy if you are going to work with persons. Right now, I am working on the way I organize my thinking, because sometimes it's not easy for me with dyslexia, like to reframe it in a way every person will understand it, right? So I'm studying that, and I'm studying public speaking, negotiation, how to do the pauses, how to share the knowledge, all of those things. And it's helpful. It's helpful because in the class of today, and I think I put in one of the last notes there. The teacher was saying that, I don't even remember his name. We are a message that speaks by itself, regardless if you are a light worker or not. People will remember something of us, and that something it's your brand, not because you need it. You maybe are a home mom or a grandma or a mother or a normal person, but even though everyone will have an energy signature, and that will make them be remembered for the person that know them, right? But that energy signature is perceived through the way we speak, to the way we present ourselves, to the way we write, to the quality of our ideas, to what we represent. We may represent something that is alcoholic or drug addict. Normally, the person will define us in one thing. Maybe a grumpy person. Oh, she's controlling. She's a bitch, or whatever. We'll have something. And for the ones that really know you, we have more definitions. In the Aztecs philosophy, I learned that in the Four Agreements, they call that mask. They say that we have different personalities for different things. For example, when I am with my family, I'm promising myself not to teach anything because I am going to be a mother or a daughter or a sister or a friend. I don't need to be telling, did you know this? Did you know that? Do you feel that? Oh, you have a whatever trauma, because that can be annoying. Because at some time I was doing this version of me 24/7. And I realized it was annoying for the person that know me. And I I adjust. I got the feedback and say, that's right. That's annoying. But that message we give is the meaning that we give to life, not only for ourselves, but for others. For example, I never thought that I was teaching to my mom that I was a strong person and that she would feel proud of me. In my perception, I was wounded. She didn't like me. I didn't see her for a lot of years, but she had a different perception and proved me wrong, right? And when you notice those things, everything has a meaning, even the parts that you were in the hole, that you feel broken, that you didn't know what to do, because you add the meaning that was helpful for you, but also for the ones that share experience with you. So when you do that, it's not that you are going to shift into the positive, that it's annoying. Like, imagine you're in pain and someone says, no, your body is perfect. You don't have pain. You don't have pain. You don't have pain. You said, I'm healthy. I'm healthy. I will hate it, because if I'm in pain, just leave me with my pain. Just go away, right? It's not about that fake positivity. It's about really noticing that there are wrongs and there are rights. In all of that, it's life. And every time, not only when you are in session or with a client, you are teaching someone something. And even when you make mistakes that you think make mistakes, people will learn. And if they learn that they shouldn't do that, then so be it, right? But I think as an awakened person, the most important thing we want, at least I want, is be happy. And my happy, maybe many things. Not only be a light worker or having followers or whatever, maybe having peace in my home, and all of other things that Gretel wants. Yes. So you can use your techniques, use the knowledge that you have, not only with your clients and in sessions or in journal or in a book that you're going to write, or whatever you want to do, but bring the same meaning into the daily life things you already do, by being present, by taking feedback on what your husband need, or your kids, or your family, and what you need from them, and make all of those agreements. Because at the end, what we appreciate from a person, like me and my grandma, I don't care about what my grandma did accomplishes. I just care that she would make the most delicious coffee with me and cinnamon cookies, and we will sit and put the cookie inside of the cup, and we're not speaking. Probably I wasn't speaking. Probably I wasn't. She was listening. The fact that she was with me, next to me, enjoying that moment of sweetness is just magic, right? So create moments with positive anchors for yourself, but also for the ones that are around you and yourself, you and your family. And you anchor that through the feeling. For example, person that anchor, they will touch you in the shoulder. They will put their hand on the back, or they will bring a gift. They will make you feel something good when you do what they want you to do. Does that make sense? Like for my daughter, she wanted to clean the way I wanted. And every time she was borrowing the house, I begin to say, "Oh, I love when you do that. Look how clean is the floor." And I was, of course, lying. And then I would just hug her and say, "I just love you," and just like take like a second hugging her. And at the beginning, she was like, "Oh," because it was something that I add. And then every time they were going to ask my two kids, "While you're going to clean," she was saying, "I'm going to do the floor." Because she said, "Okay, every time I clean good, my mom comes and said, I love you. So I want to do that more." So this is things in which you can use it in a positive way. So I train them so well in those behaviors that I don't need to be in the house for them to have the house clean or to do the things they know mama wants them to do, because I don't need to tell them, because through love or my presence or my affection, I was reshaping them, right, gently into my way that I feel happy, because I can now see that what I have seen, it has been producing positive results. Now that I'm going to travel to Gina, I'm going to go for 10 days or 2 weeks. I'm not sure. My mom was saying, "What are you going to do with the kids?" "I'm going to leave in the house," because I trust in them, because they have proof. I can have confidence. I have nothing to worry. They can be by themselves, right? I don't need to ask anyone, "Hey, can you stay in the house?" or whatever. But my sister can, I said that, right? But she has a different methodology. So apply that for yourself. Practice. Just to go. Ask yourself, negative anchors that I have, positive anchors that I have. Make a list. So the positive anchors, one day you will transform them. But first, the positive anchors, cinnamon cookies, the music you like, the way you like the house, the way you want to be, I don't know, the clothing or activities or anything that lift you up, place them on a list so you make them more at least 3 a day. Okay, what do I need to do? Right? And that is going to, in your chemistry and your emotions, in your mindset and everything, recalibrate you. And this is a positive, not positive, joyful and comfortable way to heal. And you will know when it's time to go into the shadow and do your work and negotiate with your emotions and ask, okay, but in which moments I feel secure, in which moments I feel. And this decodification, you can do it with your words, with your energy. But if you can also do a code and says, what is the code that represents that I know how to do this? What do I need to become that? And what I can do now to get there, right? If my desire, it is, I said, okay, I'm going to learn Chinese because I feel like I need it. What do I need to learn Chinese? Well, you have to subscribe for a course. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to look to see what app or course I can do it, and then remind yourself that with one time that you do it is not enough. You have to do it over and over and over and over until you create the pathway. So how much you know gives you resources, but how much you practice make you a master. The talent that you have inherent is like your season ingredient, your magic, your uniqueness. But the ingredient that I think is more decisive is the mood that you have, the attitude that you have in relationship with whatever you want to accomplish. And as I said at the beginning, there are moments in your life that change your perception forever. Like me, I just needed a 10 minutes talk to choose. I wasn't weak, even in the hospital with zero money, just on the will of my family, and to shift inside that I am strong. I have done good things. What if you can take those 10 minutes to negotiate with yourself and see which aspects of you actually do know how to do? Maybe not in the situation that you phrase it, but if you know how to do that in another momentum, then you can associate and said, now I know and I don't know how to do. So I am on the way to shift that. Okay. I hope you guys like it. I am going to take the pictures and send this to you, or rephrase it if I can make that in a PDF and send it to you guys. And tomorrow, you guys can join me if you want to. I want to do it because it's the 11/11 transmission, just for us to change timeline. I think it's ideal time to do that. And then we're gonna take a break. We have been working very hard the last month. We're seeing each other Friday and Saturday, and it's going to be Thanksgiving. And I'm going to go to China, which I am very excited. And I see you guys on December. I think on December, I do prefer, if that's okay for you, if we see each other's 4 days in a row. So you guys have December for free to do your holidays. And then we complete the course. Yay! So anything, let me know. The ones that would like to have the last session, we can have that on December. If you feel you need it, or in January or whenever, you can say, hey girl, you owe me a session, and then we go ahead and do that, okay? So, oh yes, I'm excited, Sue. It's a lot of things in the middle, but it's excited because I did not ask for it. Like with Encoded Frequency, it's something that just came to me. And I think it's bigger than what I expected I could go through. Well, they have their apps, and it appears as if the apps we use don't always use. There are certain things that I need in order to get there, but my friend, the one that I have been working, she kind of speak English, and we'll figure out. That's another thing. But my lesson it is that it's good. It's a good idea to let the universe to choose once in a while what is good for you, even though it's not something that you have not even thought about it, because it's actually what is in the highest and best. It's one step up than what I expected, but I said if the universe thinks it's a good thing, then so be it. And I will let you guys know how it is going there. And I think I'm going to be activated personally. I feel like I'm going to have like a shift in my personality. I haven't had that in a trip, but I have heard about persons that says, oh, when I went to Egypt, I had like a major awakening, or when I went to Greece or something like that. So I think I'm going to have a type of awakening, because my mom was saying to me yesterday that my grandfather went to China and that he would speak a little bit of Chinese and went to France. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. So it kind of makes sense that it's kind of like all connected. So see you guys tomorrow. I changed the time tomorrow. I put it at 1 hour later. I hope it's okay. You don't have to join if you don't want to. I will upload it in the playlist that you guys have. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you both, and I hope the information that I have shared is helpful. I kind of like summarize it, but practice it, read the books that you have. Hopefully you guys resonate and adapt it into your own ways, and I'm sure it will be helpful. See you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.